Tonight on CBC Vancouver News.
How I ended up with Leanne is $1 million question. I can't answer that. I wish I could.
A Vancouver Island woman claims she was sexually abused as a teenager by a fellow member of a secretive Christian sect who is now facing charges. Plus.
And then later at 8:20 p.m., he called again saying that I'll be leaving in 5-10 minutes.
The last moments of a Sikh leader's life in Surrey. We preview an exclusive report on the killing of Hardeep Singh Nijjar by the Fifth Estate. And
the big concern really is around the drought supplies.
Bad news for BC. Forecasters say we have the second lowest snowpack to date, recorded in half a century.
This is CBC Vancouver News.
Hello, I'm Dan Burritt. Thanks for joining us. A BC woman claims she was sexually abused as a teen by a fellow member of an insular and secretive Christian sect who is now facing charges. The CBC's Karen Larson breaks down the allegations and the wider investigation taking place into the sect commonly known as the 2x2s.
1986. Okay, so this is my grade 7 graduation. This is a very typical look as a kid.
Lyndall Montgomery is going public for the first time about alleged sexual abuse she suffered as a teen.
Here I am at 12, starting to get pimply.
It happened inside an insular and secretive Christian sect that has no official name, but is most commonly referred to as the 2x2s.
But no makeup, no jewelry, no hair cutting. After a certain age, you're expected to put your hair up into a bun and pulled back. That's the look. Quite typical. That's the look, exactly.
Montgomery says there was violence in her home growing up, and at age 14, after a particularly traumatic incident, she was sent to live with Leanne McChesney, a 2x2 minister, or worker as they're called in the faith.
My Frank Hurt Go card from 1988-89, right around the time when Leanne would have entered my world.
While in her care, Montgomery says McChesney sexually abused her.
How I ended up with Leanne is $1 million question. I can't answer that. I wish I could. That might bring me some sort of clarity as well.
Did anyone know what was going on in 1989? Did the church know? Did your parents know? Did any adult in your life know?
For me personally, I can't say. If they did, they didn't do anything. Yeah, my parents had implicit trust in the organization, in the workers, in the way it all, just in all of it. They are truly believe it's the one true way. Where's this one? You ready? Thank you. Ready?
Montgomery lived with the secret for 35 years until last year when she saw this news story.
I looked at the front page of our Comox Valley Record here, and on it was a story of one of the workers who had been charged with child pornography. And they actually went into quite a bit of detail about the 2x2s. So it was undoubtedly they're talking about, and it just blew my mind.
Montgomery brought her story to authorities early last year. In January of this year, police from the community of Delta arrested McChesney on charges of sexual assault and sexual exploitation. None of the allegations have been proven. The charges come amid a number of international media reports about child sexual abuse within the 2x2s. A few weeks ago, the FBI took the uncommon step of publicly announcing it was investigating the 2x2s in the United States, asking for help identifying victims of a religious group that traditionally has not had a name, but has been referred to outside the group as the 2x2, the Way, the Truth, and the Church with No Name.
That's in the States.
Yeah.
Well, would you like to see something similar in Canada?
Very much so. Yeah, it's an international crisis. And so ask me now, why did it take me 36 years to do it? Because I know the difference between revenge and healing. I want to heal. I want to heal. That's my motivation for doing it.
The 2x2s were founded in Ireland in the 19th century by Scotsman William Irvine. Followers brought the faith to Canada in the early 1900s. The sect does not promote itself publicly. Sermons are most often held in members' homes. But we visited a public gospel meeting at this funeral chapel, hoping to speak to a minister about the allegations. We were invited in, but without our camera. The minister we spoke to declined comment.
They're really off the radar in many ways because they don't own buildings, they don't own structures.
Steve Kent is a professor emeritus at the University of Alberta who studies alternative and controversial religions.
Many groups have antagonistic attitudes toward the outside secular world. The outside secular world is evil, fallen, even satanic, and consequently they almost never go to outside authorities to report incidents of abuse. What often happens is groups have either internal investigative procedures that are very, very poor, or they get the abusers to repent, that say they had a conversation with God and God has forgiven them.
When you heard the FBI was investigating the 2x2s and asking victims to come forward, what did you think?
Well, my very first reaction was it didn't have to come to this. There's been plenty of warnings over the years. Okay, so this is our landing page for our Wings for Truth.
2x2's member Bruce Murdoch runs a website from his Cranbrook, BC home and has been posting about child sexual abuse cases within the church for over a decade.
There are hundreds and hundreds of allegations that have not gone to the legal authorities. And for many, many years, the leadership of the church would not go to the authorities on purpose. And so all this conspires to hold things back and hold progress back. And it had to come to this.
Meanwhile, organizers of a 2x2 victims hotline in the U.S. tell us they have documented 1,500 unconfirmed allegations of sexual abuse and other offenses.
I want to bring publicity to the fact that I am not an only. Over 700 perpetrators have been named. Over 1,500 allegations have been made, naming perpetrators more than once.
Come here, Goose.
I feel fortified, finally, that I'm not screaming in the wind anymore.
We did reach out to the man identified as the 2x2 leader in BC for comment on this story. His name is Merlin Affleck. He declined our request for an interview and didn't answer questions we sent about Mick Chesney's arrest, her status within the church, or the FBI investigation. What he did say is that steps have been taken to protect children in the faith, including the development of a minister's code of conduct and a child safety policy. We also asked the minister in Port Coquitlam at the gospel meeting for an interview. She declined. Karen Larson, CBC News, Vancouver.
Investigators here and abroad are still looking into the killing of Surrey Sikh separatist Hardeep Singh Nijjar. So the CBC's Fifth Estate has now obtained exclusive security video of the deadly shooting from June of last year. The footage and new interviews from witnesses and family members are included in a new Fifth Estate documentary, Contract to Kill. Here's part of that story.
So that day in the morning, it being Father's Day, we had gotten him a gift, a pair of jeans, because he usually goes through them really quickly because he just loves wearing jeans in general. And we had gotten him his regular size. He joked that, you got me a size too big. And I joked that, we'll see. And he said, don't worry, within like a week or two, you're gonna have to go exchange these jeans and get me a size smaller. And I said, if you do that, I'll buy you 5 more. That's how I went about in the morning. And then later at 8:20 p.m. He called again, saying that I'll be leaving in 5-10 minutes. And then my mom informed him that we'd made semia for him, that he got more excited. He's like, I'm coming right now. That semia was one of his favorite desserts to eat. And obviously just 7 minutes after that, the incident happened.
You can watch the documentary Contract to Kill right now on YouTube or on CBC Television and CBC Gem tonight at 9 p.m. It has been the topic of many heated discussions. Now, Premier David Eby says the BC government is committed to allowing the Vancouver Park Board to be dissolved after the next provincial election. Eby says he's been working on this with the City of Vancouver, but says they were not able to officially bring change forward during the latest legislative session, which just wrapped up. He says he hopes to continue that work in the fall, which comes after October's provincial vote. Mayor Ken Sim argues the board is outdated and wants city councillors to be responsible for parks and green spaces. He needs the province to amend the Vancouver Charter to allow the city to dissolve the board. The plan has met fierce opposition and led to a split in Ken Sim's ABC party. Around 100 people have been set up in temporary accommodations after a fire tore through their rental complex in Coquitlam on Thursday. But it's still unclear if or when they'll be able to return. And as Joel Ballard reports, some say they have nowhere else to go.
Zinab Mohseni and her family lived in the unit above where the fire started early Thursday morning.
I look at the outside from window and I see some smokes from underground, and it was really scary.
Soon, the flames erupted. Mohseni and her husband fled with their children, banging on the doors of neighbors.
And I started to loudly, get out, run, it's a fire, fire.
Many of the residents here say false alarms are frequent, like Landon Phillips, who didn't think there actually was a fire.
I actually, thankfully, I heard people panicking. I looked outside the window and I saw the flames bursting up.
He knew he had to get out, but not before making a call.
Guy is our guardian angel right here. He phoned us and got us awake and got us out before the smoke took us over.
By the time firefighters arrived, 4 units were already engulfed in flames. This couple lived near those units and had slept through the alarm.
Trying to hurry up because we had 4 inches of smoke in our apartments, and we were just trying to rough things up in the bag and get out of there as fast as I can.
Clear thinking by their neighbor amid the chaos.
If it wasn't for him, we wouldn't have woke up. And if we did woke up with all that smoke, forget it. Yeah. I probably would have made it out. So thank you, Landon. Yeah. Man. You know, saved my life.
All the residents of this building have been forced to leave, supported by the City of Coquitlam and emergency support services. They've been provided clothing, food, daily essentials, and temporary shelter at hotels around Greater Vancouver. Their accommodations are covered for 6 days. But after that, the future is unclear. City staff and engineers need to determine if it's safe to move back in.
Some of us have lost everything. You know, it's not good. And with housing prices the way they are, it's no joke. Some of us are like capitally screwed. Where are we going to go?
Mohseni's unit has been completely destroyed. In her son's bedroom, the floor collapsed. The trauma, still fresh.
And we are so worried because I don't think that we can afford with these expensive rents to find any place.
The city says firewalls were able to protect many of the units, and it's hopeful most residents will be able to return. Joel Ballard, CBC News, Coquitlam.
Parents of some children at Lord Strathcona Elementary School in Vancouver claim there are crisis-level staffing shortages and cutbacks. They say support staff are often pulled from their regular duties to cover teacher absences. And as Janella Hamilton explains, they say that leaves vulnerable kids without the supports they need.
Strathcona is a wonderful school. Our teachers are amazing.
But Krista Sigurdsson and Andrew Ledger say staffing shortages and a lack of resources at Lord Strathcona Elementary School are hurting their children's learning.
The students are so well loved and supported. Sorry. And I wouldn't want any of this to be seen as, sorry, as a knock on any of the work that they do. Parents just want teachers to be supported.
The Vancouver School Board says while it's usual practice for educators on call to fill absences at Strathcona, district staff have been reassigned so students have consistent teachers.
We see resource teachers and EAs pulled away from the classroom where they need to be supporting the kids, and these kids that deserve to have those extra supports. It leaves the whole school community in a really precarious situation.
Staff shortages are not new. Many schools across Vancouver face similar challenges, but this educational expert expert says some communities like Strathcona are being acutely impacted.
Strathcona is a place where there are a lot of unmet needs right now. And a big part of that is around the absence of teachers and the insufficient number of teachers to be able to do the meaningful work of inclusion.
The chair of the Lord Strathcona Parent Advisory Council says the shortages hurt all students.
We've heard of, major delays in literacy learning and outcomes, and we've learned about behavioral issues and violence in the classroom.
The PAC says it wanted to bring its concerns to a school board meeting in January, but were denied. So it's now sent a formal letter to the board and the province.
We have had an informal chat with the VSB, but really not seen any changes. We're not going to give up. We need the support, and we need the VSB to listen.
The VSB says the PAC's request was specific to school-based matters, and they were encouraged to speak with district staff. Gardner disagrees. She says all school officials should be working together to help solve the problem. Janella Hamilton, CBC News, Vancouver.
The RCMP says it has seized tens of thousands of prescription drugs over the last 3 months of their drug trafficking investigations in Prince George. In Vancouver today, Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre says the province's prescribed safe supplies policies are to blame.
Your tax dollars are paying for organized criminals to get their hands on the same pharmaceutical drugs that caused the crisis in the first place. This is insanity. I will put an end to it. We will stop funding drugs and start funding treatment and recovery to bring our loved ones home drug-free.
Police used this photo of prescription pills laid out on a table in their news release, noting they've seen a rise in the amount of prescription drugs used as currency over the last year. One safe supply advocate says, though, that the transfer of legally acquired drugs for illicit use is nothing new.
Prescribed safer supply is not killing people, right? And then you also have to look at, diversion is something that's been going on even when I struggled with addiction in the 90s and 2000s. To me, it's just sadly a distraction from what the crisis really is.
Early last month, Provincial Health Officer Dr. Bonnie Henry called on the BC government to expand safe supply programs, citing the over 2,500 deaths due to unregulated drugs last year. Well, it is a big haul. Mounties also say they've seized millions of dollars worth of contraband cigarettes and arrested 2 people in the Fraser Valley for alleged trafficking. Police say they found 45 pallets of illicit tobacco in Maple Ridge and Mission, worth over $12 million, as well as 70 pounds of silver and $100,000 in cash. The Mounties say this was the latest of 2 investigations over the last year in BC and Alberta, leading to a combined total of 27 tons of cigarettes, with more than $24 million seized.
The illicit tobacco trade poses a serious domestic and international threat, as it funds the growth and expansion of transnational organized crime, in addition to undermining public health objectives.
And Mounties say their investigations are still ongoing. It is International Women's Day, a day of celebration and advocacy for women's rights and equality. Premier David Eby sat down with a fertility coach to discuss his government's plan to fund in vitro fertilization treatment next year.
For how many of the people you see is money a barrier to accessing the kind of fertility treatments that they need?
It is a barrier, and for a lot of people it might be they can scrape by to get 1 cycle, and sometimes they need 2 cycles, and so that is a huge barrier that we often don't hear about. And also just the idea that they have to go into debt. So they become a parent and then they're in this severe debt and having to, start off the child's life.
Kids aren't very cheap.
No, they are not. No, they are not.
The IVF funding plan is expected to begin in April of next year. International Women's Day was first celebrated in the early 1900s when women in Europe campaigned for women's rights to work, vote, hold public office, and end discrimination. But what does this day mean for us here in BC today? Our Karis Hogg took to the streets to find out.
International Women's Day is March 8th, but we know women exist year-round. So what is this day for? Camaraderie, awareness, celebration, inclusivity, maybe just a day to post online about your favorite women. What does this day mean to you?
I grew up with International Women's Day as a national holiday, so it was like a very special time of year. It's my mom's favorite holiday because Dad would cook breakfast, like serve breakfast in bed, the whole thing. So it's like mom does nothing, we do nothing. We're just like treated like royalty.
It should be celebrated every single day because we women, we don't stop working at home, going outside for work.
I think we should appreciate women every day and just always respect women.
I think a lot of women are not noticed about a lot of things they do. Like going through pregnancy, for example, it's not something easy that women can do.